96.1 to be Ferrari Simmons. Oh my God, I got a special guest, Miss Tezlyn Figaro, the Hood Whisperer.
That's correct.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the 96.1 family. Thank you to you.
Now, I've been hearing a little whisper. Are you officially in Atlanta?
I am officially in Atlanta.
Yeah, welcome
what's
to
up,
the
shawty?
shout. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to do a little tour or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get you some JJ's wings. You know what I'm saying? Get you some
Absolutely.
American deli.
Absolutely.
We gotta give you the whole, but we gotta go to a specific American deli. I gotta
Correct.
get you in right.
Okay, give me in right.
Okay.
Shout
Now you're
out to
taking over
brother.
my Rari's in case you missed it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Vice President Kamala Harris was in town. She had a Democratic rally. It was people in the comments in shambles about Megan Thee Stallion performing, do a little twerk on stage. A couple of people were saying, why didn't she speak on gun control or gun violence since she had that incident? A couple of people did like the fact, I did like the fact that she had Quavo on there, because when I see Quavo, I think about Takeoff, and it's a sad thing. I've been a part of their fabric in the beginning of their careers, but what did you feel about the Democratic rally?
Well, first of all, again, Atlanta's always been so welcoming to me, so I am humbled, to be here. Georgia, in particular, this is the Black Mecca. This really is what decides how the nation will go, whether it will go with VP Harris or will it go with Trump. So we're looking at Georgia as a swing state. So when you talk about these rallies are so much more than just entertainment. It is an opportunity to galvanize the vote, which we call GOTV, get out the vote. And so there's always going to be criticism on who's used as a surrogate, who's used as entertainment. I saw the comments too. A lot of people didn't like Meg there. I don't think it is for Meg to speak about, gun violence. So I don't know, people were saying Meg should have talked about it or VP Harris should have talked about it. But you got about 96 days left. The job of any candidate, and I'm just saying this because one of the things that I did do in Atlanta 2 years ago was brought about 400 people here to train them on how to be candidates, organizers, and operatives. So the main thing was that VP Harris got out, re-energized the base, brought people in the stands, however they got here, whether it was Meg, whether it was Quavo, whether they wanted to be around VP Harris. But the key really is can you retain those voters? What we're seeing with
Say that again.
Let me say it one more time for those in the back. The key is, can you retain those voters? So I was Bernie Sanders' National Racial Justice Director in 2015 when nobody knew who Bernie Sanders was. Killer Mike and I, my brother, shout out to Killer Mike in the building, Atlanta's finest. But we worked on that campaign when nobody knew who he was. And he did a really good job of bringing in college students, bringing people in the stands, getting people galvanized. At that particular time, raised more money than anybody had ever raised, at least in our recent time. But he just couldn't retain those voters. So I'm looking to see, are they able to get people excited about it and keep them on board for the next 90 days? Or will this just be kind of like an emotional high?
That's how I felt that the point of Megan Thee Stallion was to get people excited about it, to stimulate Generation Z, because I feel like the young vote is needed, and people are forgetting about Generation Z. They're 18, 19 right now, a couple of them, and we need their vote too.
Yeah, but hold on.
Am I right?
Meg too. But I like Meg too. Like, this is not just, because I know you said when we were talking off camera about age, but let's go. Hip hop is 50 years old. Yeah. So we are hip hop. Yeah. That doesn't change. This is not just, I rock with Meg, I rock with Glorilla, so it's not just to one particular age. It is hip hop. And I think it's important, especially our generations and folks in their 40s and 30s and 20s, that we don't just walk away from hip hop. We listen to it just as much as anybody else. We created it. The palette may have changed. I grew up on Lil' Kim, but that's no different. Meg Thee Stallion is the new version of Lil' Kim or the new version of Glorilla. So that appetite is still there. So I think it's important that we do bring in Gen Z, but also important to know that hip hop gravitates to us all. It is literally the fabric of our culture. It is the most recognized, the most used, white, black, brown, you name it.
And it should be included in a presidential campaign rally.
It should be included. My thing is, what I've always been saying, and when I ran for office in 2011, I said this: the days of using hip hop as a political fundraising gimmick without accountability to heal the story that hip hop tells is over. So that's where I get my frustration. If you're going to use hip hop, like the folks said, why don't you talk about gun violence? If you're going to use hip hop, then let's talk about the stories that are being told through hip hop. So if we're just putting people on the stage to twerk, dance, rap, whatever. I have no problem with that. But how are we using that music to actually talk about those stories? And that is what I think any candidate should do a lot better.
And one thing I want to say, it has stimulated me to learn a lot more. I had no idea that the Senate controls a lot more than what I've learned the president does.
Right.
And again, politics is something that a lot of people sometimes may, not really want to get into because it may be a little difficult, because now we got the presidential stuff, but then we got the local level too that I want to shed a light on with you, because people need to start voting locally as well. Because you'll go to the polls, but then you'll see a whole bunch of local votes too, and you'll be like, wait, I don't know who these people are either. So how do we get people to stimulate them to vote locally? Yeah,
it's important. I try to use analogies when we say the OG, the BG, the YG. Like the real OG is the governor. That's really who's running that paper, who's really the kingpin, who's really putting money out, who's putting that work on the street. That is the governor. So it is important to be involved on a federal level. Excuse me if I get into my hood whisper translation here. But it is important that we support the federal, because the federal, they issue out the money to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to give you X, Y, Z, I'm going to give you the bag. But who determines how that money is split down, how that money is broke up? That is really your governor that is deciding who gets that, what city gets that. Many cities here in the Georgia area, in the Atlanta area. How do you get that money? And then now, once I give the bag to that mayor, or give the bag to that state representative, or give the bag, because I want to be clear, state senator, they're making laws. So Congress is about making laws. They're deciding these are the rules. This is how we're going to run this hood. This is what we should do. This is what we should not do. But who actually gets the money? Who actually gets the bag? Who determines who's going to be put on the block? Which block is going to have the most money?
The hood whisperer, you doing it right now.
For real. Later, am I
you talking that talk. They understand what you're saying.
Yeah, they understand.
Hey, now, come on now.
Yeah, and people get, and I want people to not be offended by that, because people say, oh, why does she use that translate? Well, because I'm trying to get the person that may not have been involved, the person that may not understand. And when you translate that to a way where people can get it, like I do in LA, shout out to MC8, I literally break down the entire government process on how we move. In Atlanta being the trap, one of the trap founders of trap music, then you understand who gets the work and how do you break it down. So when you talk about a governor, what Governor Kemp did, whether people like it or not, one reason he was successful over Stephanie Abrams, whether people like this or not, because he put that work on the block. He had that Kemp card. So when people had that Kemp card and they were going and swiping it and saying, you know what, this is who put money in my pocket, that gave him an advantage. When you're able to do that and put money in people's hand and they feel it, they actually feel it, and they get that high like you would if you was putting out work on the street. That is what determines. So you have to get involved on your local level. You have to get involved with your governor. You have to get involved, with your city commissioner. And those are nonpartisan seats, by the way. When you talk about city commissioner.
What's partisan mean?
Partisan mean I'm choosing what gang. Either I'm going to be a Blood or I'm going to be a Crip. Now, for those I know in the South, a lot of people.
Democratic, Republican.
Democrat or Republican. And you know what's so interesting about it? We know that Bloods are red. Republicans are red. They're called the right wing. Bloods put their flag on the right side. When you look at Democrats, they're blue. Guess where they put their flag? On the left side. What do we call Democrats? On the left. Even when you look at that analogy with even Crips, the largest gang, if you will, especially in my era in the 90s. That's just like the Democrat Party, a big melting pot. So many different people from repping so many different constituencies and desires and wants. Where Bloods in the 90s were able to survive around all Crips because they were condensed, they were one movement, moving as one organism, like what you see on the Republican side now. And that's how they became strong, and that's how they survived. And you can even see that in the difference. I can break that down another time. But
yeah, because you're coming back. Don't worry.
Yeah, because I'm coming back. So it's just important. So when we say nonpartisan, what I'm saying is you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to run this race as a Democrat or Republican. I'm going to run this race as Tezlyn Figaro. Now, to keep it real with you, there's still going to be, they're either a Democrat or Republican. In the hood, we call that a sympathizer. That means you actually sympathize with one or the other. It might be an affiliate. That's also another word that you use to say, I affiliate with them. I'm not really, like Ice Cube ain't a Crip, but I affiliate with the Crips. You know what I mean? So they're still, so you'll hear a lot of people say, well, they're really a Democrat anyway. True, but they're running as nonpartisan, meaning they're running on policy. They're running on, these are the things that you want to get done. And that's what's most important. And that's who determines what, clubs get to stay open here. Yeah. What, that's been a lot of issue. Who's paying taxes? What time do they close? All of those things that keep Atlanta thriving, that is what I say when I say nonpartisan. And I'll just say this, and I know I'm going on and on.
No, you good.
But I just want to stress, when you talk about hip hop, it's important we include all generations, because ATL, out of all of the 7 swing states and Georgia, and ATL being at the Mecca, this is the only city out of all of them that have hip hop that actually has a real voice across all generations. It's the only one. You have to come through Atlanta if you want Georgia, which means you have to know hip hop. You have to speak our language, whether that's sitting down with Killer Mike, at his barbershop, whether that's T.I., whether it's Young. So we cannot separate the age things, because hip hop is 50 years old. And that means you need to be talking to every single constituency that is still in the hip hop conversation, because nobody does it better than hip hop. And so that's really important.
Tezlyn Figaro in the building. Thank you so much. We appreciate you now. You coming back. We got to figure this out once a month, every other week. I don't know.
Weekly. Don't make me put you on the spot.
Hey, man, we can do it. We can do it. This was great. I appreciate you pulling up. Can you tell the people how to follow you, please?
Follow me on Instagram, Tezlyn Figaro, TezlynFigaro. Make sure you stay tapped in. Again, we're going to do more of those trainings.
She DM'd me, y'all. She literally sent me a DM. I was like, hell yeah, you pull up on me. I was like, shoot.
Sure.
Then she started sending me clips. I'm like, girl, I know who you are.
I'm so humbled by that.
I appreciate that.
This work that we do, you do so much, and you don't really be thinking people be listening, because it's not with the twerks. It's not with the excitement.
Facts.
It's not it's the boring stuff.
But I do think people sometimes may lack information.
Yeah.
And I like that you give a lot of information. So for the people that thrives to them, I feel like you're extremely needed. And for the people that will hear your voice and be like, man, I've heard her. I like what she's saying. Let me find out more.
I appreciate that. Local radio is the most important.
Of course.
As you know, I do national radio, tap in with the Breakfast Club time, tap in on Two-Way. I tap in on Fox News all the time, giving them the business. But local radio, I cannot stress enough how important your voice is, what we're doing. And I'm saying we, because I'm part of the family. What we're doing at 96.1, this is truly the heartbeat of the city. And so if we're not embracing that and keeping things nationalized and not talking to our local listeners, then we're losing. So that's really, really important. So please, stay tapped in with me, but allow me to come back and just really have a relationship. You have to build a relationship. You got to date.
Facts. You did it right.
We did it right. Engage the whole thing. So
Tezlyn Figaro, Ferrari Simmons, right here on 96.1 The Beat.